friends of love for volleyball, amor por el voleibol, and pleased and honored to talk today with one of the most important players of history, Olympic champion in Atlanta 96, World League champion that same year, chosen as the best attacker and player in various championships, coach of outstanding teams, and member of the Volleyball Hall of Fame since 2017. I mean Ron Zwerver from the Netherlands, who's currently with us today talking about volleyball and his life. Hello, Ron, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Fantastic. First of all, Ron, please tell me when and why did you choose volleyball as your sport?
Well, volleyball was for me, well, at that moment, when I was 7 or 8 years old, it was difficult to go for soccer because soccer is #1 in Holland. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't go to a club because I was too young. And my father was in the, played volleyball in the military, so therefore was his love of volleyball. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, you can play volleyball at 7, 8 years old. And he played already with not with a profession, but for an amateur team. Mm-hmm. And mostly I was during the weekend, I was with him, and he showed me the hall, and I get a ball, and then I tossed the ball against the wall, and then I hit some ball, and then I set the ball. So slowly I discovered the fun of volleyball. And then at the moment I said, well, is there a volleyball club in the neighborhood? So my parents said, yeah, it's 500 meters walking. So therefore I get to know volleyball a little bit, and because it was a team sport, that was also important for my parents, that I can join other players. That was important. So at the age of 7 or 8 years old, I started to play volleyball.
Mm-hmm. Well, fantastic.
Yeah.
Where did you play volleyball? In clubs and in school?
No, I play in a club. So we have a club system here. Mm-hmm. You have a little bit gymnastics on school, okay, but not volleyball or something. So I went to a club. Mm-hmm. There was, in my time, there was still a mini volleyball. So there was a little court, I think 5 by 5 meters, mm-hmm, or something. We play with 4 other boys on the court, and we have a lighter volleyball ball. So it was not that heavy as a normal volleyball, it was lighter. And well, we played there. I think we played for 2 years, mini volleyball, and then we start with normal volleyball. Perfect. Because also the net is lower. So it was more like ping pong than it was volleyball, because it was an adventure to serve the ball over the net. And then mostly the ball was on the ground, or somebody could pass a ball again over the net. So it was not 3 times of volleyball, free touches. It was mostly ping pong.
I know.
But I had fun.
Mini volleyball is very, very difficult at the beginning.
Yeah, it's for sure. And now these days they have different type of volleyball. So you can catch the ball first, yes, and then you can throw the ball to another player, and then they will set the ball, and then you can hit. So it's easier, because it's well, you have to get more fun, because when you serve the ball and the ball goes or on the ground, or somebody is touching the ball but goes out of bounds, it's not fun anymore. But because, well, they do a good job now at volleyball to how do you say that? To give more pleasure, more fun into volleyball. And in Holland, it calls circulation volleyball.
Okay.
That's
okay.
The name of
perfect. Perfect. Yeah. It's very true what you're saying, because when a child plays football, soccer, it's very easy to play football. But volleyball has which is technique to play, to receive, to serve, to tag. It's a very technical sport for young people, for many players. So as you're saying, it's very important that the play must be more fun and happy for the kids. And tell me, Ron, please. You told me you're starting to play. How was your process to go into the national team? I was saying outside the camera, I met you first and your team in the junior volleyball championship in Italy in 1985. How was your story until this team to get to this team?
My story is just like easy because my story about volleyball is I played volleyball with my club 500 meters from my home, and then I played mini volleyball, and then because I was very tall and very skinny, I moved up, and not only I was tall, but I had some good tactics, so I could play with all the guys. So I was already playing with guys who were 11, 12, or 13 years old, and I was only 8 or 9. So that was very well. That for me was interesting because I could play with a heavier ball, with a normal volleyball, not with a mini volleyball. That was lighter. But then the difference between ages in boys, when I was 9 years old and the other were 13, 14, was too big. So the guys were more interested at that level already in girls, and I was so young. I want to play volleyball, so it doesn't have that interest anymore. So I quit volleyball, and I go to soccer. I tried to play soccer, but after 1 year, it didn't like me because when it was raining and in Holland, it could be raining a lot. So then the court was not okay, so we couldn't play on Sunday. And so I go back to volleyball. And my father said, well, let's try some different sports. So he suggests to play softball or baseball, baseball. And I did that. I love basketball because we had a tournament on school, so that was fun. I played also a little bit handball, just on school. But then my parents said, let's go further from Amsterdam. Let's go to Amstelveen. It was 10 kilometers from Amsterdam. And there were 2 clubs, AMVA and Martinez.
Okay.
And we go to that club. And they were both interesting that I will come and play for that club. So my parents took the decision to say, well, let's go to Martinez.
Sorry, Ron. Sorry, excuse me. Do you see my image in movement, or it stopped? I can.
Oh, it stopped. It stopped your movement.
Yes, I see you. I can see. Oh, okay. Now I see you well.
I see you. Okay.
Yeah.
So my parents took the decision to play for Martinez.
Okay.
So I went to Martinez, and over there was already the coaches, the old players like Marco Brouwers and Bert Goedkoop, and also Avital Zelinger was
okay.
There. And I was 15, 16 years old or something. So I play in team number 4 or number 5, not even 1, because I wasn't that good at that moment, very young. And then one of the guys, one of my coaches, Bert Goedkoop, he said to me, let's go to the National Junior Center.
Okay.
In Papendal, in the Netherlands. And we go by train, and he introduced me to Joop Albeda.
Okay.
Joop Albeda was already then the juniors national team coach. So I was 15, 16 years old, and then he introduced me. He said, well, I couldn't find any good volleyball player in Amsterdam, but I have just one guy, and this is the guy, and just let's see what he can. So that was my introduction to the juniors team. And then I think in 1 or 2 years of the time, I go already to the older team, because you had always 2 teams, Team A and Team B. Team B was younger, normally 2 years younger. And in 1 year, I could play also for the oldest team.
Fantastic.
So that was fun. Yeah, and that was
really.
That was an important period for me, because then it was me interesting to see what volleyball really means. I mean, it's fun to be the best in your club or something, but then you are the king of your local sports team. But now you can compete with international players who are the same age as you. So I played already at that time against you, against Cardini, against Sorsi, against Bernardi, Toffoli. So that was very interesting to play that competition, especially internationally.
Yes, yeah. I must tell you, as a personal impression, when we went down from our bus in Bergamo in the championship, we saw your team, and we were shocked. We were shocked, I must tell you, because of the height of your team.
And, that's true.
And our team,
remember Edwin Benne?
Absolutely.
He was tall, but also big in shoulder.
I know. There was Edwin Benne. There was you, there was Ron Zwerver, Henk de Held, so great players, and these players also was a foundation, I must say, with all generations, where, as you told, were Marco Braus, Bert Goodkop, so many good players, and this mix was, I think, and Job Albert that told me this, and Peter Murphy also, the foundation of a generation of one of the best teams of all times. The team that won in Atlanta the gold.
And that's true, because, well, you have to be lucky, because you have to thank the parents that they get some children who are talented to play volleyball. And we had 3 or 4 generations who were very good. Like, okay, you know, the first generation never profit of their investment.
Yes.
It's always second or probably the third generation who made the profit. And we had a good generation like Edwin Benne, like Peter Blanchet. They were 2-3 years older than me. And we have my generation with me and Olaf van der Meulen. Yes. After that, it was Henk-Jan Held, Bas van der Goor. So we had some lucky that there were talented guys who play also, well, they're also committed to invest in themselves. And of course, you need also the money. You need also the sponsor. You need also the federation. You need a lot of people.
Absolutely, absolutely.
If you want a gold medal for a team performance, you need a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of patience.
Exactly.
And well, we had 8 years, 9, 10. Well, I played 10 years for the national team, and finally, I won the gold medal in Atlanta. So
yes, I remember also that in this Junior World Championship you played as a middle blocker. When did you or your coach said to you, okay, you're a good blocker, but you will be a better outside hitter? What was this moment?
What it was is Joop Albeda had also that funny rotations stops. So he was good in setting all the players in different positions.
Okay.
And I was all right, so I could play middle, I could play outside, I could play passer, so I could do everything. And then at that time, it was very fun to have some rotations that the first blockers didn't know what that was a scary situation. Sorry. So that was fun to have in a rotation that the front blockers didn't know who were the front players, because every time we switched off different formation, every rotation, and that was fun because on the box of the physiotherapist, it was the letters of the European Championships '85.
Okay.
But there was the E and the C and the number 8 and number 5. But these were a code of which rotation and which formation we could stand in. So the coach were pointing out on the box which letter it was, or E, or C, or 8, or 5, and then we know what kind of formation we were. So he had always some tricky things to stand in a different formation in different rotations. So that was fun. Now these days everybody does the same.
Exactly.
But at that time,
I love this kind of volleyball. I love this style of volleyball where you didn't know if you're going to attack over the middle, over 4 or 5 or 1. And also, as you told me, in your team, for example, Bas van der Goor, he could play also as an outside hitter, as a back row hitter. And this gives you, I think, your power as a volleyball team, also with many so tall players at the time. Beside Avital Selinger, he was a short setter for you, but the team, I think all your players were over 2 meters high. So
that's true. I was the smallest guy.
Yes.
I think I was 2 meters, and the rest was taller than what I was. But also Bas van der Goor. It was that was the first time that a middle blocker could do a jump serving, exactly. or played how do you say that, behind the 3 meter line.
Claro.
That was amazing at that time, and I think that was also the key of our team. Finally, after 2 Olympics, that was my 3rd Olympic, the '96, that we had some new players like Bas van der Goor and also Guido Geurtsen.
Guido Geurtsen, exactly.
Who could hit the ball very hard.
Yes.
And yeah, that was amazing to find that group and to put them in the right position. And also, I think that was also important. Every player at that time, the last 3 years, before the '96 Olympics, played also in a very good club team. And there were important players.
Yes, yes.
They were scoring players and not sitting on the bench. And now you see a lot of players who are sitting on the bench, but you have to play to perform.
I know. We are talking about the Dutch volleyball evolution, and you were part of this. And as you told me, you played, I think, maybe all your career in Italy, if I'm not wrong, and also your teammates. That give your team a very strong basis for what you achieved in Atlanta and before, and also you were playing in a time where teams like Italy, Brazil, Russia, Cuba were very, very strong. What is for you as a player or as a person, as a human being, to live in that time and play in Italy for a very strong season, play as a national player for your country? How was it for you?
Well, I think the foundation of what we did started already in I think in '87, '88, because at that moment, well, volleyball was nothing at that moment.
Yes.
And we had that good generation, but we were very young. We were young, unexperienced. We didn't know what top sports was. So I think the foundation was that Arie Selinger, our former coach before Joop Halda,
yes,
was coming to the Netherlands because his son Avital Selinger was playing on the team.
Yes,
and we were fortunate to have that guy. That he was the first volleyball professor in my eyes.
Okay,
and so that was important because I believed him. Normally, it was only coaches who had his work, and in the evening they come to the sports team and give us practice. But now we had a man who studied volleyball. So that was the first thing. And then the vision of Arie Selinger was, let's play together the whole year. So not club volleyball only and a national team,
okay,
but a national team for the whole year. And he said, well, we play not so many club matches, but what we do is we have to get the experience from the other corners in the world. For instance, at that moment, the best attackers were the Cubans, the people from Cuba.
Yeah,
they hit the ball very hard. So he said, well, what we do is we lock us up in the gym in Amstelveen. We practice for 2 months, and then we go for 1 month to Cuba. And then we play 10 or 12 or 50 matches, whatever. And if you want to be the best defender, we have to go to Asia. First of all, we go to practice for 2 months, only defense. And then we go to Asia. We go to Japan, Korea, and then we play harder defense. Because the lines we set, the linesmen were better than what we did on the linesmen in Asia. They could better play defense than what we did. So that was a lot of fun. There was a lot of commitment at that moment. So that was the foundation, I think. After that, to be one of the stars in the world, for instance, and to play with Zorzi and Bernardi and Cantagalli, that was a dream also for me, because after playing in the Netherlands, it was totally different to play in Italy. It's a different country, different culture, different style of practicing, also different, how you say that, rhythm of playing, because now I have to play every week. And first of all, that was especially mentally tough. They pay me a lot of money, so it was pressure to say, well, I'm worth it. I get a lot of money, but it's worth it. So that was a different mindset.
Exactly.
So, but I had so many. The city, like where I played in Treviso, was great. The circumstances was amazing, because that was the best club in the world. And well, I played it for 6 years, so that will say that I had a lot of fun over there.
Exactly.
And also, that's important, especially in a club like Treviso. You have to win prizes. If you don't win prizes, you get fired. So that's also
professional volleyball. Yes.
Yeah, that is true, and it's sports. So sports, it's about results. So you have to know that. But it's mentally tough to be balanced between the mental toughness and your life. You have to be in balance, and that is always difficult to find, especially in the beginning. But at the end, I had a lot of till now. Well, till a month ago, finally, after 1.5 years of Corona, I took the car and drive to Treviso to see my old friends.
Oh, wow.
And then we talked to each other. Old stories come up. We order a great table at the pizzeria in Treviso. Invite some friends, and then the stories will get bigger and bigger and bigger. That's normal.
It's fantastic about volleyball and our life as players, and after we play in these ages or 50 years. And I love this too, because I still have my volleyball friends in Chile, and we get together and talk about past histories, and that's finally my object with these interviews, to know you not only as a sportsman, as a great athlete, and also as a man, as a person who put his life in the sport. And I wanted to ask you also, we were talking about the Olympic experience. You played in Seoul in '88, you played in Barcelona, where you get the silver medal behind Brazil, and finally you get the gold in Atlanta in '96. What was for you this 3-time experience in Olympic volleyball? For us as a player in Chile, for example, we watch the Olympic Games and we dream to be one day in Olympic tournament. But how was it for you to represent your country and finally to win gold?
Well, it was, what I always said is in 88 in Seoul, I took a lot of pictures. So I have, I think, 3 maps where I put the pictures of, so I took a lot of pictures. So I made some photo, how you say that? Book. I had 3 books full of photos.
Oh.
With the Olympic Village and where we were eating and the gym and whatever. So I was a tourist over there. Not really a tourist.
Yeah.
And I suck up every single experience that I could get. So that was the first Olympics. In '92, I was more interested to perform.
Okay.
I was willing to get the gold medal. Well, we didn't get the gold medal. I got silver, and that was I made only some little movies. At that moment, you had a Sony 8 camera.
Yes.
You put some pictures. So I had only 2 cassettes or whatever. And in '96, 4 years later, I have nothing, no pictures. No
really,
film.
really.
Because I was so
Concentrated
I knew what,
to play.
Yeah. Yeah, I was so focused on. I know already what Olympics is. I know it's difficult because it's a world championships of, I don't know, 42 different sports. So it's bigger and bigger and bigger. It's very difficult to get to be focused. And volleyball is the volleyball program during the Olympics is the first day till the last day.
Yes.
Well, if you run the 100 meters the second week, 10 seconds, everything is over. And then the whole village, the Olympic village, is party. It's a big party. So it's very difficult to get the focus. So that is my story about how serious you are. Therefore, it was also difficult for Bas van der Goor of Guido Geurtsen. That was their first Olympics. So I have a lot of respect that they could get their focus. Even though I know from my experience that my first Olympics, I was a tourist. So that is the difference of the experience of the Olympic Games. But what you already said, volleyball, I owe everything on volleyball. My whole personality, my way of life, how I discover life, how I discover friendship, how I discover disappointment, how I meet friends, everything. Because it's so important in that period when you were, I don't know, 40 years till 30, whatever it is. Everything was around volleyball. And it was very intense, but that intense moment of getting the experience from volleyball, but also for life, you have to, it's getting you, it gives you responsibility.
Exactly.
But also you have to choose everything. And then if you are one of the stars, you have to give directions. Why? Because maybe you don't want it by yourself, but the surrounding is pointing out that you are the star, so you give us the direction. And everything that I did it at that moment. With the, we go now into the tunnel. Hopefully it will be okay.
Okay, don't worry.
So it gives me a direction, and I took the decision, and I meant what I did. But well, after 25 years, for sure, 25 years later, you ask different questions than 25 years ago. You understand? So I took a lot of mistakes. I said some stupid things, but at the end, it's great after 25 years to drink a beer with these guys who win the gold medal.
I understand
sure,
it. Yes.
We had some fights and we had some disappointments and we had to party, but it was so unique that group of guys, and not only the Atlanta team, but also the team of Barcelona or Seoul, they are part of my DNA of volleyball.
I know.
And that is very worthwhile, because sports gives you a lot of input. How do you make decisions? And of course, there are a lot of people, I know people who are getting over the edge and getting mental toughnesses, or had big problems mentally. But well, I'm fortunate that I was surrounded by good people who get me on the ground.
Fantastic.
I
told I think Peter or you about what is impression from people here in Chile and South America, because we thought wrongly that a team from Netherlands, from Holland, were a team, a cold team, a very quiet team. We always think here in Chile and South America that the European, especially the European from the north, Germany, the Swedish, are very cold players. But absolutely wrong, because your team, especially you were so fighting, you were so shouting every point, and that's what were very impressive to watch your game. For example, the final against Italy in Atlanta or Barcelona or whatever tournament you played always with hot blood, like a Latino play, like the Brazilian, like the Cuban play. So it was very impressive for us to watch how you played. As we were talking before about the tactics you used to play, it was very impressive to watch your team, especially you, to celebrate every point, like it was the last point of the earth. It was very tough to see.
Yeah. Well, what we saw, because that was important during my time in the juniors, when we play against South American teams, that we saw the fun. And for instance, for us, it's normal that you are concentrated to the match. So in the bus to the match, you have to be quiet, you have to be focused.
Yes.
And of course, old school, right? And well, we believed in it, and we did it. But then we saw, for instance, Brazil. They had some music, man,
Yes.
and there was samba, and I said, well, what the heck is this? So, and then you're thinking, okay, they can perform in this way, why we couldn't be? And then, well, you have to discover by yourself what your best preparation is for the match. So for every person is different how to prepare for the match. And that's what I saw also in Brazil, that they had ghetto blasters and music taking into the locker room. And we were, as North European teams, we are quiet and concentrate. And so I found out that also when I played in Italy, you have some different ways or prepare for the match, and for everybody it's different. So I find out that if we don't show emotions, then sometimes for us it works well in our team that we find the conflict. And of course it was sometimes terrible, and sometimes it was too personal, but at the long run, especially after I think 4 or 5 years, you know that everybody on the team wants to win. And sometimes you expect a little bit more of your team member, but then it's very tough to say something about that, because, well, you know it too personally, and also it's important that you by yourself, you have to perform well. Otherwise, it doesn't give you any right to say something to somebody else. So it took us a long way to get that on the normal level. And we're talking about the 90s. So the sports, how you say that, the mental people who are responsible for the mentally health of the team, at that moment, we didn't have any people in our team. So we have to find out by ourselves. And that was a very long way. But at the end, it's very worthwhile because you have to discover your own feelings. You have to talk about it. You have to communicate, and of course, you have to fight, and fight in a good way, because you have to be connected with the people. If you don't connect it, then you have a big fight. Then it's me against you, and we have to talk about volleyball. How to beat a team. How do we beat the opponent?
Exactly. I remember also the championship in '85. I have so great memories of this championship. We played together in Bergamo, and after that in Bologna. And I remember when you were talking about the experience in the bus, that we one time, I don't know why, we went to the back to the hotel together, your team and my team. For some reason, I don't know why, our president of our federation started to sing. We all, the team, sang a Chilean song, and after this, your team began to sing. I don't know, a Dutch song about I don't know why, and so it was a very, very emotional moment in the bus. Both teams singing typical songs of a country. So it was a very special time for me. I remember it until today. And what you're saying about the mental strength of the team is so important. And I, as I told you before, I saw this in your team. I saw that you were a team, a group of volleyball players, not only persons who played in different teams. Also, I saw a very tight team, a very strong team, and that's, I think, get you to the gold in '96 against Italy. Against, I think, all your team comrades of the team in Italy in a 5-set criminal game that we all saw, and we can still watch it on YouTube. So I think it's for me, as I told before, an honor to talk with you, to know your experience. And I think maybe I'm wrong, that you put this in your book. I don't know if your book, Ewic Gold.
Yeah, that's true.
Ewic Gold.
That's true. I wrote a book because it was exactly 25 years ago.
Exactly.
And then also the different, it is a strange time because, well, the Olympics were delayed by a year. So that was exactly during the Olympics.
Yes.
So it gives me also some time to write about it, but also not write about it, about that moment. It was more how to discover yourself as a person, as a sportsman. How do you gain friendship, but how do you lose friendship? How do you getting the things that you want to do? And for sure, volleyball, you cannot do it by your own. You need some players, and for me, it took me 10 years. But in 10 years, I met a lot of different people. And it was funny because after 25 years, you ask different questions to the persons than 25 years ago. So that was interesting to read, but also the lessons that you learn in life. What do you do? And I said it already to you, that, well, I have my DNA is volleyball. Everything what I do, I own by volleyball. And the life lessons that I get, well, the best learning process is play volleyball. That's for sure, because, well, you have to perform together. It's a difficult sport. Mental it's a difficult sport, but if you open up and discuss this, you get to learn from each other and by yourself a lot.
Right.
That is really one.
I'm sorry. And when did you start thinking to be a coach or to continue in volleyball as a coach and to just share your experience and for your players? When was this a moment for you?
Well, after my career as a player, I did some management things, also some marketing things. So I did that for 5 years, and then I was director of a volleyball team on the highest level. And then at that moment, the coach was going to another club, and then I have to find a new coach. And I wasn't happy about circumstances, and I thought about it, and then I called Peter Murphy, and I said, "What do you think? Could I be a good coach?" So then I have an interesting conversation with Peter, and then I decided to do the coach education, because for the international players, there's a short course for being a coach. And then, I was going that way, and till what is it? 2 years ago, I was coaching different levels, different national team, juniors team, the highest level, Olympic qualification, European, World Championships, but also juniors. And now, after 1.5 years, I do coaching in business. That's also fun.
I know. And tell me, please, talking about volleyball in your country, and watching all your history, your generation history, why do you think, especially the men's team, has not achieved what you achieved, or is it in way to achieve? What do you think about it?
Well, I think you need what we already said. You need at least 3 generations, and at this moment we don't have that good 3 generations. You have Nimir, he's good.
Yes.
And you have he's excellent, and then you have some good players.
Yeah.
But good players is not enough, because the volleyball level in the world is so high.
Yes.
And it's not it's a sport who are already on the highest level for I don't know, for 30, 40 years or something. It's not a new sport. It's easier. Like beach is a fresh new sport, so it's easier to be a good beach player, because the level is not that high. Well, at this moment, the level is high, but it's what I mean is it's a very young sport. Because the first Olympics were in '96. I think it was a demonstration sports, beach volleyball.
Yes.
Well, it's tough, and well, we have also only 15 million people.
But we in Chile, we are 15, 17, 18 million people also, but we never have your sport achievements in every kind of sport. Peter and Job, he told me that in Holland, and this time in the 80s, as you told me, there was a national plan for the Olympic sport. In Chile, we didn't have this, but I'm wondering why, after this fantastic program of you, the 3-generation program, you didn't have could or repeat this, because I think you're in Netherlands. You have the players. You have the height of the players. You have you're in Europe. You can play more easily with more teams, like we have here in South America. That's a question I always have.
That's true, but well, I'm not into that exactly how the federation or the government organized that.
Okay.
I don't have that answer to me. I know that well, at this moment we don't have the different generations. That's for sure.
Yes, I know. And tell me, please, Ron. I know for me it's a very special car interview that we're making now, about your book, Evig Gold. I don't know how to say it in Dutch. Min verhaal over de Olympische titel en het leven erna. I don't know if I said it good or wrong.
It's about the forever gold, because if you are be Olympic, if you win the gold medal, you're forever be gold, right?
Okay.
And also we won here in Holland the forever moment of sports history in the last century.
Okay, fantastic.
So that was the title. And then what I said is about everything about going for the gold. So the 24 years in Atlanta, but also what I do with it 25 years after.
Exactly.
So that is the story about the book.
Fantastic. And finally, tell me, please, I know you started to play in a team with big stars, but when you started to play in the national team, do you have some maybe international players you wanted to emulate? Or
yeah. I had one big famous player, Ben Gustafsson.
Ah, from Sweden. Fantastic.
He was, because I met him when he was playing for Parma.
Okay.
And with Brother Martinez, we played the European final in Parma.
Okay.
And then I know that's a nice story. So I was very young at that moment. I was, I think, 17 years old, and I was not in the first six with Brother Martinez.
Okay.
In the club. So we qualify for the tournament, the European Cup final, and that was the Champions League. And then Arie Sellinger makes a substitute, so I go into the court and I hit the ball on the left side on position 4, and I hit the ball cross court, and it was on the ground, and everybody was shouting on the public in Parma. So I thought I'm a star. I'm a big star. I'm in Italy. I played the ball. I hit the ball on the ground. I felt incredibly. So I thought that the public was giving me applause for that ball. But what was the reason? Ben Gustafsson came into the sports gym.
Okay.
I didn't know that. But after that, I saw him going into the sports, and everybody was shouting about Ben Gustafsson, Ben Gustafsson. So I thought I was for me, but unfortunately he just entered the sports hall. So that was funny.
I also had the opportunity to talk with him. I interviewed him maybe last year. He's a fantastic person, and I saw him play via YouTube on volleyball magazines, and I know via him or people like you that he was an amazing player, a superstar.
No, it was a superstar.
It's fantastic. Okay, Ron, I finally want to thank you again for your time. I know you're very busy in your country, and I want to thank you for your words, because as I told you, for me, it's very important to know the volleyball player and also the person behind the uniform. So I thank you again and again. Thank also Peter Murphy and Joop Alberda for this conversation with Dutch, the Netherlands volleyball players that I always have admired since then in '85 in Italy. So I want to thank you, a big hug from Chile, and keep in touch.
Thank you. All right, Alfredo. Thank you for your very nice interview. I had a lot of fun, and I'm safely back home, so that's good.
That's the best. Fantastic.
Okay.
Bye, Ron. Nice to talk with you.